Hey guys, welcome back. The Honolulu Blue Breakdown is here at the end of week 18. Got myself, Troy, Matt. I always do this wrong. Matt's over here. Jordan and Zach. We're here. We're going to talk about the Lions' last game against the Bears, a win. We ended on a high. We'll talk a little bit about that in the standings. Now it was, a little bit of best case scenario if you're going to miss the playoffs. I guess how we got that win. Then we're going to turn the page. We're going to go to the off season. We're going to start talking about different news that comes up, a couple press conferences, things we'd like to see in the off season as we move into our off season content. So just to kind of give you guys a little heads up after this week, then we're going to start doing our off season grades. We're going to break down the offense and then the defense. And then we're going to start getting into free agency and draft. So look for some more episodes on off season stuff coming up as well. But I guess with that said, guys, we got a win. We ended the season on a high. How do you feel?
I mean, at the very least, it was mixed emotions. It's like I always love to see a win, but it's like if we would have played like that, another game or two, we'd be still in the thing. So yeah,
I agree. Nice to get the win, beat Ben Johnson one more time. I mean, what was our divisional record is now 2-4? Did we get swept by both the Vikings? Ugh.
Yeah.
What a crazy year. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to end on that way, especially when we saw the Vikings win the day before. So it was like house money sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was good. Good to see them too. They look good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jordan, you said it, best case scenario, based on where we were sitting, we knew that we had that fourth place schedule locked up. So we could just go out there and now we can still claim we own Ben Johnson. So we'll take it.
Yeah,
and no major injuries.
Yes. Correct. That's the biggest thing. It seems like we came out of that healthy. I'm excited to see as this goes on, as Dan Campbell builds up a coaching tree a little bit and he starts playing against, his proteges. I think it was, Nick Saban has this huge coaching tree, and for a while he was like 20-0 against them. And so, now Dan is 2-0 against his coaching tree. So that'll be kind of, I don't know who's next. I can't really think of maybe this cycle if anyone's going to get added to that coaching tree. But yeah,
we'll get Aaron Glenn next year. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. So yeah, he'll be 3-0. He should be.
Or not. It might be rough.
Yeah. I guess with that, we got to move into, of course, someone who also will end the season on a win. Our sponsor here. So Phil Nijkamp, realtor. So he proudly sponsors our show. He's a realtor with Keller Williams Harbortown, serving Holland, Zeeland, and all of West Michigan. And of course, like we say each week, he's a Lions fan. So he was rooting them on as well, ending the season on a high. Buying or selling your home is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. And so Phil believes it should also be one of the most personal. Phil helps families not just move, but move forward with confidence. So if you're buying your first home, maybe selling to downsize, relocating, an investment, now's a great time to have an honest, no pressure conversation. So visit philnijkamp.com or look him up on social media, and he'll help you get started with your move and help it be as easy of a process as it can be.
Yes, sir.
Shout out, Phil.
So let's move into the offense here. Jared Goff, there you see him. He's throwing flames. Looked like we were a little bit back to normal. Goff was cooking. The O-line looked organized. Maybe that was just having Glasgow back at center and not the rotation we were seeing the other weeks, but pretty decent.
Yeah. I mean, without Penei Sewell in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was that guy, the new guy?
Heck if I know.
Hubbard.
One thing I did want to say about Jared Goff, and I'm probably one of his biggest defenders and supporters. I love me some Jared Goff. It was outdoors, and he played great. But I want to and I'm not going to take credit for this. This was all over X, the Everything app. So Jared Goff needs everything to be perfect to have any shot at success. That was kind of the quote. But his old offensive coordinator took a new job. His new offensive coordinator was not great. Changed play calling midway through. His O-line, very inconsistent the entire year. Run game underperformed, I would say, or at the very least was very inconsistent. Lost his all-pro safety blanket tight end to injury, probably halfway through the season. And guess where he is, in total touchdowns this year? Second with 34. Guess where he is in total yards this year? Third with 4,564 yards. So he's still a top quarterback even after all they went through this season. So whether you take that as, a good or gosh, we should have won more games, I just wanted to point that out and give Jared some respect this year.
Yeah, and I'm tough on Goff sometimes, obviously, because he lacks the mobility that we see a lot nowadays. But that is super impressive that he maintains that type of elite play under the O-line. He does without having that same mobility. That just kind of goes to show his cerebral, approach to the game. You can tell he's definitely got a mind for it. So thank you, Goff. One thing I like about this stat here, Troy, that you included is my brother, Khalif Raymond, man. I hope we bring him back. I'm scared he's going to get scooped up. When he gets the ball, good things happen. And I feel like we have so many weapons on the team, and they throw to him or they plan his way. It's pretty infrequent, but when they do, man, he's speedy. Who was he on? Him and Jamison Williams were just cooking. Who's number one on the Bears? Was it like Jalen Johnson? I know he's coming off injury, but my gosh, every time they're running across the field, the dude was like 4 steps behind them.
Yeah.
So I feel like recently at the end of the season, when they were like almost didn't know what else to do but to just, give it to Raymond, Khalif, give him the ball. I feel like good things happen. So I'd almost like to see him utilized a little bit more in the future if we can get him back. I'm just a fan of Khalif, though, personally.
Yeah, I love Khalif, and he seems like just a great guy, too. You see interviews with him or things like that. He's really funny. So, man, it would stink to lose him.
Yeah, Matt said it. Shout out to Jared Goff. Over 4,500 yards, 34 touchdowns, only interceptions. And this, from some perspectives, was probably like worst case scenario for him back there with the O-line being decimated, tight ends gone, Amon-Ra randomly dropping passes in the middle of the season. But, as good as the stats were, it's pretty wild that we didn't make the playoffs with him really slinging it like that. So, we'll talk about it later, but some stuff's got to change for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is we look at that time of possession. We talk about it every week, but this week they dominated it. 35, almost 36 minutes, really controlling the clock there. Running game was pretty good. Not amazing. You see Gibbs 80 yards, Monty 42 yards, so nothing crazy, but they were able to control it. Goff had time, and when he has time, he picks you apart. So that was kind of the biggest thing. It was good to see them kind of end that way. Moving on, I guess, to what's that?
Sorry, I just wanted to look it up. I feel like Amon-Ra was a little bit too high in the drops on the year. I'm trying to look it up. I can't find it. Yeah, he had 10 drops on the year. Is that leading? Yeah, by a lot. Just so unusual. Yeah, like this is according to fantasypros.com. But I feel like I've seen that elsewhere too. And that it's like almost every game he's crucial time. You go to him at crucial times. He gets the ball a lot, but it's just so odd.
I wonder if he was more injured than they let on, and that was kind of affecting him too.
Yeah, I know he had a wrist injury at one point, but still, they were uncharacteristic. Defense, here we go. You see Calvin Shepard holding his child, Ben Johnson, there. And for the most part, the Bears did nothing until Caleb got a little loose in the fourth quarter, but run game was non-existent for the Bears. We got a turnover, beautiful interception by Maddox. Hutch with a sack. Jack Campbell doing his normal Jack Campbell things. All around pretty good.
Yeah, if we can play like that, on a regular basis, next year, that'd be great. Getting our weapons back in the secondary, hopefully maybe add a pass rusher. But I know I'm speaking a little bit into next year. But yeah, it was nice to see us, hold them to some punts and some fourth downs. Let's say that.
Yeah, almost a complete game. A little too late in the season. to be playing that way, but it was although we were up 16-0 when they scored that 2-point conversion, the first one. I'm like, oh God, they're gonna come back.
I know.
I knew that. I felt it in my bones.
Yeah,
but we did it. We pulled it off.
I mean, you guys said it. If the defense could have played like that for like 2 more games, we'd be a playoff team. Interesting. A lot of the names you have up here, Troy, are going to be free agents. Rodrigo, Maddox. So it's like, are those guys coming back? Are they not? I mean, we've got a lot of time to talk about it, but just a lot of uncertainty, and maybe some change would be a good thing because the defense really kind of held the offense down at times this year.
Yeah, hopefully it's a learning experience for Kelvin Shepard. I still think he's kind of a rising star as a coach. Obviously, he had his struggles this year as the injuries piled up, and trying to figure out how to navigate that. But in the end, hopefully it's just experience that makes him, better as a coordinator for us. Next, special teams, game theory. Unfortunately, our guy, Jake Bates, did miss a field goal. He hit 4 of them, but he missed one. The big thing I wanted to point out is how the game started. Classic Dan Campbell Lions drive. So 11 plays, field goal. Then 16 plays, field goal. Then 9 plays, touchdown. And then right before the half, Bates missed the field goal. But those were our first 4 drives, just dominant, kind of start to the half. And then, we can get into the end of the game. It was a little weird, like we're trying to run the clock out, but then we're passing, and that's when Goff threw the bad interception. So that was a little odd why we were doing that, and then accepting the penalty when they probably shouldn't have. But we got the 3 and out for Bates to get the walk-off winner.
I think you kind of alluded to it, Troy, but when I feel like the last 2 months, it was like almost every game we had a period where we're 2 or 3 drives straight and they're all 3 and outs, and I don't really, especially in the first half, we didn't really get into that. So it was encouraging to see the consistency there, and taking the points too, rather than kind of going for it. I think he kind of knew it was going to be, you got to get points during this game. So yeah, kind of looking at those PFF grades too. Kingsley, he didn't.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too.
Okay.
I'm not. That might not be correct.
Okay. Well, either way, I don't think he had
from
didn't
the
have a good
Browns
game in
practice
Cleveland.
squad.
So yeah, he didn't even suit up down there. So
well, that's why he did so bad.
Yeah, exactly. Man. So the only other thing I'll say, I see Hutch up there. I'll probably butcher this too, but I think Aiden Hutchinson this year had the highest percentage of pressure rate. I don't know the exact pressure rate this year or what he ended at, but I think it's who provided the stat, but I think he was top overall in terms of pressure rate over the entire year, which is really nice to see. I think top 5 in sacks as well. I could be wrong there. I think he was maybe 5, but yeah, I think next year he'll be better than ever. This will be his 5th year next year, and another year away from that injury. So I expect big things from him next year. Like I'm going to call it right now. He's going to be Defensive Player of the Year.
Nice. I'll just jump in. I looked up. So last week, Kingsley Aguakin was the worst player. The PFF grade is correct, but I forgot to change the name from our slides last week. That is actually Malcolm Rodriguez.
Really?
So yeah, I guess PFF thought, I don't know if he wasn't very good in coverage or what it was, but
it was that they were picking on him. He couldn't cover very well, and I think I spoke on it last week. Maybe he can step up and kind of fill that Anzalone role. But man, that's a big drop off. That's not. I don't think that's his spot there. He has a hard time keeping up with the tight ends. And
fresh off the injury too, though, so he might need a year.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see Hutch, of course, but like Aleem, hopefully he can take a massive step into becoming what he was, a little bit better run stuffer, a little bit more pressure too. And I feel like Tyleik Williams too. Rookie year's tough. That's a hard position. It's not very flashy. I feel like you do still see him at times. And I feel like there was a couple of times I noticed him in the game making a play. So would love Roy Lopez back. And that's a good center of the defense. You got Hutch. You just got to figure out the other side, what we're going to do. It's going to be very interesting to see.
I'm looking at some of the game theory stuff. Did you guys feel like we were about to lose that game with like a minute and a half left when Monty didn't go out of bounds when he could have milked the clock, and then Goff has the miscommunication and gets intentional grounding, and it's like, oh, this is how it ends.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Especially when he threw that pick into like 4 guys and the Bears got the ball back, and I was like, oh, they're just going to drive down and kick.
Tesla was wide open, like 10 yards down the field. Not for the first down, but close.
They have to just stress us out one more time.
Yeah. Wouldn't have it any other way.
All right. Our last Harrington to Hutchinson of the season. So we've gone up and down. Started out fairly good and then kind of have slowly degraded closer and closer and closer to Harrington here as our confidence level has dropped. So my guy for this final week is current Kirby Joseph. And what I mean by that is he's a great player when he's healthy. The Lions, I think, are still a great team. They have a lot of great players. I don't know if Kirby's ever going to be healthy, and that makes me obviously anxious and kind of uncertain about what the future holds with him. Same thing with this team. I think they need a lot of changes. There's a lot of uncertainty, makes you a little nervous because you don't really know what the team is going to look like next year, including if that includes Kirby Joseph. So that's kind of how I'm feeling it, as this team. Now, I think they'll be good if they have to replace Kirby. I think Brad and Dan will be able to do that. Hopefully they don't have to, and he just gets the off season to kind of rest and recover. But that's kind of where I'm sitting.
I'm going with the coach, if that's allowed.
Yeah.
I hope so, because that's what I'm going with. I'm going with Jim Caldwell. He was a solid coach. He led us to the playoffs twice. We had, obviously I want to bring up the old wounds. It was the Cowboys pick up the flag, right, on that terrible pass interference or no pass interference on Pettigrew. But so lost that one. And then they lost a few years later, I think, to the Seahawks. If I remember right, we got smoked. I don't even think we scored a touchdown, something like that. So for me, it's like this team was, to keep it in the Motor City, like someone learning how to drive stick for the first time. Like, you're pushing on you got the 2 new coordinators. You're like, pushing the clutch down. You're trying to get into first and you let out too quick and you stall. And then, okay, now we're going. And then you go into second gear and it grinds, so I just feel like the whole season was just kind of like jerky like that. And then we stalled out and then we get back going and then we stalled out. And to keep with the Jim Caldwell theme as well, it's like, I feel like when he was the coach to the team, you could see it. They were good. They just they couldn't break through. So it's like, like a decent floor, but pretty much the ceiling was right around there too. I feel like that's where we were at this year, especially with all the injuries. Just kind of like looking at his records too. He went 11-5 his first year, 7-9, 9-7, 9-7. And then he got canned. A lot of people were surprised by that and might have been unfair, just kind of like our season. It feels to us, the fans, like it's unfair. It was unexpected and we have all these emotions about it, but kind of like now that it's over, it's like, you know what, like they didn't put the right things in place. They didn't execute. They dropped the ball. They had the injuries. So it kind of makes sense. Like it is just at the end of the day that we're not sitting here in the playoffs based on the product that was put out. So, his overall record was 36-28, 56% win rate. Our record this year, obviously 9-8 with a 53% win rate. So just kind of mirrored that pretty closely.
I have one, but I feel like one of us had him, a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, but we'll see. So I'm going with Amir Abdullah. So did anyone pick that? Did you, Jordan?
So. No, I don't think so.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but so he was I first or second round, I forget, but I feel like he was a super talented dude, and when we drafted him, I was like, oh man, he could he's a playmaker, and that's what we need. And that's kind of what we were this season, where, hey, we've got playmakers and we can look amazing at times and during games. But then there's other games where you disappear, and at the end of the day, it just didn't work out for him in Detroit. I think we cut him after 3 or 4 years, and he went on to play a few more years somewhere else. But yeah, I kind of with our team and the story of the season for the Lions this year, it's like the talent was there. It just was super inconsistent, and at the end of the day, it just didn't work out. So that's kind of where I'm at with this team.
Nice.
Amir Abdullah still in the league, by the way.
Still, wow.
I just saw him.
The Colts. He's like a special teams ace now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Journeyman.
he's been bouncing around. I know he was like with the Raiders for a while. I think I saw a play with him, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
All right. I went with Aleem. Tore his ACL at the end of last year. He came back after 10 months. He's 300 pounds, and our expectations were, we're getting the cavalry back. We're getting healthy at the right time, but it was pretty clear he wasn't in shape. He wasn't ready. They had him playing defensive end because of all the injuries, and it didn't go well. I know a lot of the HBBs, he was one of the bottom 5 in the rating a bunch of times, but I'm optimistic that another year removed, an off season to get ready, he'll be back next year and make a big impact. And I think that's how I feel about the Lions as a whole. We didn't do what we needed to do this year, but next year, new year, different expectations, rework some things and be back ready to go.
Wow. Yeah, I hope you're right with him, because he was.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
bad.
going into this year, he was like, we were thinking about him as one of our cornerstones.
Yeah.
We paid him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's
right.
one of the top defensive tackles pay wise.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get back to that too.
Yeah, I hope so.
And yeah, I think so too. And him and Tyleek, I feel it could be an incredible interior. So
I guess one last look at our standings here before we turn the page and start looking towards next year. So there we see it. We finished 4th, but we had a winning record, and now we get a 4th place schedule. So I guess that's kind of where we talked about the best of all worlds with this last week. But obviously missing the playoffs is, like Dan and Brad both said, a failure of a season. So any final thoughts on this? Anything you guys want to point out?
Pretty crazy that the North. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, the only thing I was going to say is Minnesota and Green Bay tied for the best division record, oddly enough. I just found that interesting that Minnesota had a 4-2 in the division. So
JJ.
9.
He slays the North.
And Brosmer.
Zach, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how often has it happened that every team in a division has a winning record?
Yeah.
The division is brutal. So,
not even one bad team. Like the West, they had 3 great teams and then the Cardinals, who were last. But yeah, we had essentially everyone was the same. I know the Bears had 2 more wins, but it's like they don't recover an onside, and now we all have like the same amount of wins.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jared Goff is like the old man of the division, so I don't know if it's going to get easier anytime soon. Like we're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that too, where we kind of beat up on each other this year, and we were on the worst end of that more often than not. But I feel like going forward, it'll kind of be more of the same as long as things don't change drastically. And I feel like it's going to be hard for the NFC North to ever get the 1 seed, in the next few years.
That's true. That's a good point. I was going to say kind of the same thing here, where it's like, I'm a little nervous, man. Everybody's going to go reload like we are too, but Bears, obviously, they got to patch their defense. Packers got to get healthy. I'm sure there's little things they can tweak. They're a great team. Minnesota's got to figure some things out, but if they do, that's scary. Although one silver lining, maybe the Vikings and maybe the Bears will both, or Packers will both lose their DCs. They're both getting some head coaching jobs, and I think like Flores' contract's up too. So it'd be nice to see him out of the division too. He's been those games are always tough, especially against Goff. Yeah.
Yep.
I guess golf normally does well, right? But not this year.
That's a good call with their coordinators. We know how painful that is to lose those. All right. Should we say goodbye to 25? Move on to 26?
I think
So
so.
here, let's do some New Year's resolutions. So you guys, one thing you want the Lions to improve on, get better at, whatever it is, a New Year's resolution. So for me, my New Year's resolution is figure out the injuries. Normally, I would say injury issues is kind of random. You know, it's kind of like turnover luck where maybe you're really healthy for a year and then it regresses to the mean the next year and you have a ton of injuries, or vice versa, kind of like getting a bunch of turnovers. And then, you know, it's kind of a luck thing. I would have said that going into this year. And, you know, last year we had those freak injuries like Aiden snapping his leg in half, Anzalone breaking his arm, right? Aleem tearing his ACL. And this year we had a few of those, Branch with his Achilles. But now that it's happened 2 years in a row, like, it doesn't feel so random anymore. And I'm not going to say they're practicing too hard or, you know, there's a lot of talk about maybe Dan Campbell's a little too tough. But my New Year's resolution is just figure out what you're doing. If it's right, if it's wrong, is it your training staff? What are other teams doing to not have this issue? Because this team really, if they were healthy last year, they might win the Super Bowl. If they're healthy this year, they might win the division. So that's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah, I like that.
Nice.
For me, it's
Okay.
funny. I actually typed notes out today, and there's a typo. It says new tiers resolution. I wanted to say that because it's kind of fitting. Like, instead of New Year's, we got tiers going on watching the playoffs here. I just have this was a gross and disappointing season. I think for me, the one thing I really want to see, and I know I've alluded to it probably way too much in all our HBBs and a little bit of the pick'ems, is I want to see the front office adapt. I want to see them, you know, fix what went wrong, or admit come out and say, these things went wrong. We made a mistake here. We weren't expecting this. Not that you can be ready for everything, but I kind of want a little bit of ownership. I don't want to hear oh, we'll get back, all the, you know, broad, dance around the question type of things. Oh, we'll get there. We're good. I trust the guys. We're going to hear that, but I want to hear a little bit of ownership to we thought we were good running it back with the guys, and obviously it didn't go well, especially with the coordinator change. And then we didn't make the moves once people started going down. So I kind of want I want a little bit more clarity about how they're going to adapt, because I am really nervous, and I don't think this enters many people's minds, and I'm not trying to sound an alarm, but imagine we're sitting here again next year. Maybe we lose, maybe we have a losing record. Is the talk going to be oh, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are on the hot seat? You can't even imagine that after the past few years. It would make me sick because of what they've done for this city and community and fan base and the team and organization. I'm not saying that would even happen if we have another bad year, because who knows? Anything can happen, right? Injuries or whatever. But it just makes me nervous that if we're not getting a little bit more they're not able to adapt with these changes and these random curveballs that are coming their way. I don't know if that's the way to go, you know?
So I went in a little bit of a different direction for my New Year's resolution. So I'm the uni guy. I love uniforms. Kind of talking about them a little bit. The last 2-3 years, we've been almost exclusively mono color on color. I'm talking blues on blues at home, whites on whites on the road. You know, when we go black, it's all black. My resolution next year, let's get away from that. We can do it. We can, you know, be a little bit more creative. It was fun when we were winning. It was fun when we were winning the NFC North 2 years in a row. But that's not why we're winning. We've proven that this year. So let's go white on blue on the roads, a little bit more white on silver on the roads too. Let's do the traditional blue on silver pants at home. And when we go black, let's see some blue pants next year. That'd be fun. So that, I think we have some of the best uniforms in the league, and I think we should kind of branch out a little bit. You know, we know the reason why we're winning. I think we were a little bit superstitious the last few years. You know, it kept working, so we're not going to deviate from it. So Let's get off that horse. It's a new year. It's a new season. Let's go. I have one more though. David Montgomery.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
David
Debo.
Montgomery, here we go, has been one of the cornerstones over the last 3 years of our franchise. Helped us get the division. Let's bring him back for one more year, please, Brad. I'm begging you. Let's bring him back. And if this is the end of David Montgomery in Detroit, thank you for all you've done.
Beautifully well said. Yes.
Here's my new tears.
I like the jersey. Let's get crazy with it. How about some like road whites with some black pants? I love it.
Maybe not that crazy, Troy.
Matt, you should mock up. Are we doing the rivalries? Is the NFC North getting rivalries? I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
You should mock some up and we'll blow it up.
All
Gas
right,
it
let's
up.
see what
Yo,
we can do.
ham bones out there, all 38 of you. Gas up Matt's rivalry uniforms. He'll have it ready here in the near future. Z-Man.
Right. So for my New Year's resolution, I want the Lions to never again be in the situation where Dan has to call the plays or feels like he has to call the plays. It didn't work. It was kind of like in middle school when like we were playing, basketball and the coach would install a new play and then we would screw it up and he'd be like, run it again. And then it's like, okay, we screwed it up again. Run the play again. It's like, Jameer down the middle, 1 yard. Do it again. Do it till we get it right. It's like all of a sudden it's 4th and 8 and we're punting. What are we doing? So you got to nail this offensive coordinator hire. I don't know who that is. Mike McDaniel would be kind of sweet, but just go into this next year feeling like Dan can be Dan. He can do the grit stuff. He can talk to the team. He's got the speeches, but he can just be on the sideline making his faces, and the offensive coordinator is dealing with the plays. That's all I want.
I love it.
Yeah. And that is an unbelievably great segue, Zach, because now let's go into the offseason. And the first topic of the offseason, Johnny Morton's gone. We do need a new coordinator. So I guess, Zach, you mentioned it. Mike McDaniel is going to get interviewed. That's exciting. That news came out today. We've seen David Blau maybe kind of being in there. There's other rumors of Munkin from Baltimore or Brian Dable.
Yeah.
Now that he's not with the Giants.
I got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, hit us.
Yeah, no, David Blau, that's really interesting. I think he's a hot name. He's kind of a little bit unexpected, but he's drawing a lot of praise from like Dan Quinn when he was in Washington. Sounds like there was like a play a couple years ago where Goff leaked out and got a big first down to win a game or like help us win a game. And that was one of his plays that he ran in Purdue. So that was kind of interesting. For me though, the names you listed, you're hopefully we're bringing in someone with veteran experience, coaching experience, play calling experience. Like I think it was a little too cute going with two, a little bit newer play callers or coordinators. So for me, I go back and forth because it has entered my mind with losing Ben Johnson and dealing with this year with the play calling and offense coordinator. Like maybe Dan Campbell should, like he is an offensive guy. Like he played tight end. He knows ball. Maybe he should just, wear that headset again this year, get more experience at it. Hopefully the O-line is fixed. The team's better. They were still one of the top offenses in the league despite all this craziness. That way we don't have to worry about losing a coordinator every year or 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. Like look at some of the best coaches out there that are play callers. So it's not unusual. I know it's not really his forte. So for me, it's a little bit, unlucky for them, but I am glad to see that there's some options with really good veteran experiences that I would be comfortable with those types of hires. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I feel like there was a lot of, I don't know if hate's the right word, but like, oh, we can't hire David Blau. Like, he was a backup for, 5 years or whatever it was in the league. And, but I trust the people and the organization that knew these players, whether it is a David Blau, and obviously I think McDaniel, I think he's a very creative mind who could do a lot with our weapons. So I'm gonna, like I always do, unfortunately, put my trust in the front office and Dan to make that decision. And they know football way better than I do. So they're the ones that are gonna have to answer the questions, and their jobs are on the line over the next few years, kind of depending on this hire, I think. So yeah, I'll be excited, I think, with a McDaniels or a Blau. I don't know what would not excite me. Like, if it's a guy that kind of has some
Johnny
glasses
Mo's
and
coming back.
sits in the booth, that would not excite me.
Yeah, it seemed odd that Morton was in the booth because, like, Dan Campbell, down on the field, rah, motivator. You would think you'd want your play caller by your side in the trenches with the boys. So I did find that interesting to start the year.
Yeah, I don't care who they hire as long as they nail it. This is probably, would you say, the most important hire of their era?
This is a big one.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big one.
I
And
mean, how many
if you nail
hires have they done
this,
now?
yeah, if you nail this, you're right back where you want to be most likely. I mean, you can't control everything, injuries and stuff, but if you have another Johnny Moe situation, I mean, you're running the risk of having another, off year. And like you said, Jordan, I don't know how many of those you can take in a row and still, maintain the fan base or maintain your position. So got to nail it.
Yeah, this league isn't very patient.
No.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one because at first I was like, we got to have a guy who's done it before. That kind of made me nervous with David Blau. But Ben Johnson was a first-time play caller, right, when he became our OC. And you make good points with Dan Campbell just doing it himself for another year. And he actually sort of alluded to that in the press conference, not saying he didn't, obviously say he was gonna, but he said, then he wouldn't have to worry about firing his OC. And I think you might have said it, Matt, a few weeks ago, that there's a lot of head coaches that call their own plays. Ben Johnson's one of them. Right in our own division, the Bears and the Packers, both of their coaches are basically their OCs. So it's not something he couldn't do.
I just hope he doesn't.
Yeah. Does it make you guys nervous? And I don't know quite what the stats are, but a former head coach, this would be McDaniel or Daboll, coming down and being an OC, like, is there going to be any weirdness in the room with like guys who just were a head coach and now they have to listen to someone else?
But I think if they pick the right person, that person just wants to win, right?
The only thing I'll say to that too is, like, sometimes when you're a head coach for so many years and then you not taking a step back, whatever you want to call it, being a coordinator, that's so refreshing. I feel like the weight's not entirely on you, where you can focus on dialing up plays, being creative. And someone might strive in that position, maybe if it's 2 or 3 years, but sometimes that's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and if you're Mike McDaniel or really any OC, if you're not going to be a head coach, is this like the number one job in the NFL? You can go to a team that has a ton of talent. You get to be under Dan Campbell, who's highly respected. Maybe you can pick up some things from him, be a part of his coaching tree, have a couple huge years, and then you're going to be a head coach again. So it seems like they have the pick of whoever they want, to me.
Yeah, unless they're looking for warm weather down in Las Vegas or Tampa or something like that. But no, I think you nailed that, Troy. I think it's a super desirable place to be, and it's going to be interesting. I don't think going from head coach to coordinator is that crazy. I'm sure it's weird for them, but it happens all the time. And I think more importantly, we've talked about it in our chat too, like who's going to gel with Dan Campbell? That's what's going to, and Shep too. Shep is a whole character in himself too, very similar to Dan Campbell. So like we talk about Mike McDaniels would be amazing, but it's also like, it's hard to imagine, broing out with Dan Campbell, but it could be beautiful too. So it'll be really cool to see. And we should really break it down. Like after the season, we'll have a whole episode on, the coaching spots available and then who might go there, our predictions, the hot names, obviously, like Brian Flores is a big one. And Halfley, I think is another big one too. There's a there's a lot of names out there for the coaching cycle this year. John Harbaugh. I don't know if, maybe some people take time off after they've been fired. I don't know. That would be interesting, but that's another big one. All right. Sorry. We can keep going.
No, I guess moving into both of the pressers, that Dan and Brad, Dan, I think his presser was more his normal, Monday presser. So maybe he'll have another end of season presser. But Brad's was, his big presser, and they both gave themselves Fs essentially because they didn't make the playoffs. Brad kind of said it's either pass or fail, and we failed. I thought they were really good. Neither of them really, they both kind of said we need time to deep dive everything, so we don't have all the answers right now. And they were very open about that they're going to get into it, bad taste in their mouth kind of thing. So I thought they were both very good press conferences, open, honest, but humbled and disappointed.
Yeah, I really listened. I honed into Brad Holmes. I was really anticipating this when I wrote. There's like 3 major points I'll summarize here. And Lions fans, forgive me. I'm not trying to be super critical or anything. I'm just a normal dude. I'm a dad. I'm a teacher. Like, these are just my own thoughts and opinions. Muggles out there too, Lions fans and Muggles, if you're listening. So one cool thing he talked about pretty early, he addressed the O-line. He called the issues urgent. So that was nice for me to hear. Like, that's obviously everyone knows that's been a massive problem this year. He did discuss about how they looked at it in the draft and for trade options, they just couldn't get anything done. Another big one, actually, he mentioned that after Frank's injury here, after coming back, that they really hadn't communicated after that. They went their separate ways, and there's nothing concrete of him returning. So that was a little bit disappointing, that it was kind of like, all right, never mind sort of thing. Still a chance he could, but it sounds like there hasn't really been any communication there. One of the notes here, and this is where I get a little bit more critical, is just him talking about it when they were asking him questions more about like transactions at the deadline and before and free agency and stuff like that. Is he came off to me a little defensive about it. They were asking, being more aggressive when you know you have deficiencies or when players go down. And he's just like, his demeanor is almost like, I feel like he's very conservative. Like, he's not willing to give up. He's not willing to give up a whole lot of future for players, I suppose, because we've seen him do it in the draft. He's always preached like long-term sustainability. So I'm not against it. I'm just pointing out that, like, you got some GMs, Eagles are very easy to point out, who are like, they go all in, or like, look at what the Packers did with Michael Parsons. That was a massive trade. Blockbuster trade. Brad Holmes just not like that. He's going to be a little bit more conservative, and if he can get the players he wants, he's not going to overpay or come close to that. So that's what I got from that. One quick one was when asked about Laporta and Gibbs, they're coming up on extension soon here, hopefully. They just talked about how him and Dan, when they very first started this thing, their philosophy was you draft, you develop, and then you pay them. So that we've known that and we've seen it. So that is one really cool thing, because they're so like player oriented with previous players on the staff. I love to hear that. And that is cool. That's kind of not unique to them, but they're like sticking to that, so that's cool years later seeing that. Lastly, it's about Monty. So this one was actually pretty wholesome. He gave a lot of love for Monty. He said conversations need to be had. And this is a quote: "He deserves to be in a situation where his skill set can be utilized. Would love for it to be here, but if it can't be here, then it should work out for what's best for him." So that's a little vague. And he did spend a lot of time recognizing, like, we wanted to get him more involved. We didn't. We wish we would have. And that sort of thing. Like, we respect the player. We love him. And whether it's with us or not, we just want him to be able to utilize his skill set and, like, be used the way he should. So I'm sure people are going to dive into that pretty deep. I think it's open, because he's a valuable player that you could probably flip for. I'm just spitballing because I'm no master here, but I would say like a second or third for a needy team, especially if it's maybe halfway through the season when their star back goes down. He'd be amazing pickup. And honestly, for his role. As much as I love him, you could probably get some cheap, hard-nosed bowling ball in the draft in the 4th or 5th or later, like Brad Holmes likes to do. So not that you can replace him, but something similar to that. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets traded at some point, but I hope not. We love the guy. That was my recap of Holmes's presser, my notes there.
Yeah, no, well said, Jordan. And I don't have too much more to add about the pressers, of either of them. I've seen a few clips, and I think at the end of the day, it's more of like, okay, now that the season's done, and I don't think there was anything that came out that we didn't expect, or I think they were pretty all right. It starts with us. We're taking the ownership. We failed the team. So which I think they're the leaders we need in Detroit right now, and for the foreseeable future. And now it's just a matter of, all right, what's the reality going to be once off season hits? What free agents are going to be coming to Detroit, and maybe who we resign, and who do we look at bringing in? So and their coordinators for sure. So it'll be interesting. It's kind of put up or shut up time. If you will, in terms of what you're going to be doing. And we'll see what happens with the wins and losses next year.
The press conference, it was exactly as I expected it to be, professional. They didn't say a ton about their strategy moving forward. We kind of knew that they were going to keep a little bit close to the vest. The Monty stuff kind of hurts because he is kind of woven into the fabric of our team, more or less. Kind of feels like he's part of our identity. I don't want to bring it back to offensive coordinator, but I'm gonna. I'm looking at the stats right now, and did it feel to you guys like Monty started getting, like, the stuff got weird once Dan started calling the plays? Because I'm looking at it right now.
Right.
Monty led us in rushing 4 of the first 8 games. And then as soon as the Washington game came, he only led us in 1 the rest of the way. So it's like,
Yeah.
the vibes got weird with it, and Dan was calling the plays on it. It's like, if he knows the vibe is weird, why isn't Monty in more? I guess I don't understand.
Yeah, well, no, it's a great point too, Zach. And it's like, if they're looking at themselves in this lens, it's like that was working. I mean, not you weren't winning every single game, but Baltimore, he was a bowling ball, and it was working. We won 4 in a row, and we felt really good about the season. So
He led us in rushing in the Baltimore game. He had 151 yards.
yeah. So it's like, obviously, it's you kind of take it in a vacuum, but like, it's man, when those two are firing and it's balance between those two, and then you kind of hit them with Gibbs in the second half of the game. That's when we were playing our best over the last, call it 3 years. So yeah, I don't know. I think I put my thoughts out there with Montgomery, but I would love to get back to it. Well, great point, Zach.
Yeah, and to respond to you guys there, and this is again just a normal dude talking, like, my only thought with that is probably game script. Like, they're thinking they have to hit home runs with Gibbs because the games aren't going the way they're thinking. They're like, all right, we're gonna go in there next week. We're getting back to our run game and ourselves, and then their O-line's just a bunch of like teddy bears out there letting people through. And like Monty and even Gibbs, they're getting someone in their face before they even get back to the line of scrimmage. They're like, they're both very patient. I've noticed this year, to a fault this year specifically. I love it. And when we have a good O-line, wait for the, the gaps and the pathways to develop. And they're kind of stopping to look, and then boom, someone's in their face and they're like, what the heck? So yeah, to me, I would argue maybe they go away from Montgomery when they're just like, we got to throw it, or we got to give it to Gibbs and he's got to hit a home run because we're not in a good spot. That's my guess, but it didn't work. It didn't really work outside of maybe the Giants game.
Yeah, I would love to. It'd be interesting if you could like sit down and have a beer with Dan and like get an unfiltered and just hear what he has to say. It would be so interesting to, maybe he would say, yeah, honestly, I couldn't trust our offensive line. Or maybe he would say, yeah, that's on me. I don't know. It'd be curious. Couple things I'll just add is from Dan's, he made some comment about how he wants to get back to what they did early on, and then he was kind of pressed for what that meant. And he kind of paused and said, well, I don't really want to elaborate at this time. But there's clearly something, it sounds like, that he changed in his coaching style or maybe how they practice, that he wants to get back to kind of when they first came in. So that was a little interesting to me. I don't know if that means like practicing harder, which kind of goes back to the injury thing, or I don't know what that means, but I thought that was curious. And then from Brad, he mentioned, we're still going to target the same type of players, which is always the guys who just love football, and look for that kind of keeping our identity. But he did say we have to evolve, and I think that goes with what you said, Jordan, with your New Year's resolution. And so I thought that was pretty good, where Brad said, we need to evolve. The Ragnow thing was interesting. Dan did say with the Decker situation coming up was they have lessons to learn from the Ragnow situation. But Brad more said, we weren't really surprised by Ragnow, even though he announced it after the draft. He said there was breadcrumbs long before. So, he kind of put that to rest, that they were caught off guard by that. And of course he said the edge, it wasn't ignored. It just didn't really come together, the edge situation. I will mention, Brad talked about the OC replacement. He mentioned 3 things he looks for: leadership, detail-oriented, and command of the room. And the reason that's kind of interesting is with Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins. And I know, Matt, you were our boots on the ground for the Lions practice against the Dolphins. But I've heard a lot of different beat writers say that the Dolphins, because, they watch a bunch of Lions practices and they see these Lions practice against other guys. And they would say the Dolphins looked like a disorganized country club when they came in. They weren't very impressed by the attention to detail with them. So that kind of stuck in my mind when Brad mentioned that. And I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't rule out McDaniel. But it was just an interesting 3 kind of things he picked up there. So they both said they didn't think they're that far off, though. And I agree with that. It's not like you need to blow the whole thing up. You just have to address glaring weaknesses. So with that, I guess that puts a wrap on 25. We just moved into the off season. Next week, we plan to break down the offense. So we're going to go through the offensive players, give our grades, kind of who we'd want to have back and keep or let go. The week after that, we'll do defense. So we'll kind of go through the roster and talk about each player. So look for that in the next couple weeks as we move into our off-season content.
There's always next year. Story of our lives, right?
There's always next year.
We'll get there in our lifetime. We'll see a championship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I said it along the way, but this isn't the Matt Patricia era, so we're doing fine.
That's true.
I know. I think someone said on the broadcast, it was like, oh, this is like rock bottom for the Lions right now. And it's like, if 9-8 is our rock bottom, we're okay.
Yeah. We'll be breaking down a Super Bowl on this podcast. I can feel it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I will be wasted.
We'll all be in a warehouse in Grand Rapids in our main headquarters for the Hambone show.
There we go.
Playing basketball.
The Lions Den.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.